And then we get into correlation causation. So like a
Right.
big correlation thing is you see backswings on the PGA Tour are pretty much on plane. Is
Hmm.
that because that's important, or is that because it's so darn easy and we have video?
What is up, everybody? How you living? No putts given. You're probably wondering, where's Tony? Don't know. We're going to send out a search party for him in a minute. So instead, this week I have Dr. Luke Benoit. Did I pronounce that? That was pretty good. I
You
mean, I'm
nailed it,
not
man. It's perfect.
I'm not French or anything. I do have a Dr. Pepper, but I do not have a doctoral degree. So, that's I'll bring to the table what I can, but you are a real doctor. What are you a doctor of? Who are
I'm,
you, Luke? Who the
yeah,
hell are you?
I'm a doctor of motor learning. That's really my area. So it's under the broad idea of kinesiology, right? And when I was a young golf pro, I was like, what do I need to do to actually be really good at teaching golf? And so I thought, well, it's probably psychology, it's probably biomechanics, it's probably motor learning. So I decided which one of those probably most matters most, and I said, let's go motor learning. Plus, I was
Hmm.
really interested in it because I've always been like a sports guy my whole life, and like I like how people learn stuff. So that's what I just dove into.
So you didn't mention like, hey, I just read everything out of books I could about instruction, tried to mirror cookie cutter everything and go from there. You've taken a little bit of a different approach to
I had a hunch that there's a lot of crap out there. And I thought by going down the route that everybody else does, where you go shadow instructors, and I did shadow without a doubt, but also is like, man, I want to cut through some of this other stuff and see if there's maybe some ideas that had flaws in it. If there's some major myths out there, I want to actually like move the needle in this industry. So that's why
it.
I did the direction I took.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So really what we're going to talk about today, a number of things in instruction. It's, still when you look on Google and places, it's a universal plight, right? For golfers. They want to get better. Um, we were talking before, I have my own frustrations with the state and the world of golf instruction. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. What are the myths that are out there? I'm sure, in your own playing or time, you hear certain things that it just got to make you cringe. Like, oh my word, I cannot believe I heard that announcer say that, or this person say this. And to me, it's no wonder why a lot of golfers want to get better, but maybe can't. And in some ways, the industry works against itself in so many ways, and we want to discuss some of that. And then we're actually going to take a look at my swing a little bit. I sent you over a couple swing videos that, uh, for the record, you did say I have a very classic swing.
You have a classic swing with some flaws to it, but
But
there's a
what you
lot of
said, yes,
functionality there. Yeah.
you said it was a lot of the classic faults of amateur
Yes.
golfers. So I just heard classic in my swing, and I'm going with that. But a lot of classic faults as well. And then we'll talk a little speed training stuff as well, because you're pretty close to this Rypstick
Hmm.
company as well as one of your pursuits. But let's start with this. Like, where do you think we're at in the world of just golf instruction in general? Because people, like I said, the consumers out there, people listening, they want to get better. So where are
Hmm.
we at right now?
Man, I think we're I'm not going to say dark ages. It's not awful, but there's so much going on. It's almost like, you think about what social media has done to the world generally in terms of facts. Like we're
Yeah.
having trouble getting to the bottom of what facts are. And the science of learning golf it's getting better, but it's really confusing at times too. So the number of voices in the room has increased exponentially, and then people are drawn towards sensational things that you can throw on Instagram that are 8 or 10 seconds long, right? And I'm guilty as well because I'll post crap that's like clickbait stuff, because I want views with it. I'm trying to put truth into it, but to
Hmm.
get the point across, you have to do it pretty quickly to a lot of people. And then you have a lot of kind of different bizarre ideas coming in, trying to get sensational views and likes and all that too. And then within that, you have a lot of creative people that are creating a lot of different ideas about how to improve. And we're also stuck in this idea of, understanding what's really functional and what's maybe geometrically beautiful, which is where golf swings. We look at them, we're like, oh, that's beautiful. It's Nelly Corda swing, and it's perfectly on plane. But there's no reason a guy like Matthew Wolf, that's super outside takeaway and routes it down. Like he could be really, really amazing too. It could be world number one, right? So there's a lot of different ways. Or you could lay it off super hard like John Rahm, he was world number one, or you can have your feet shuffle around like Scotty Scheffler. So people are struggling to know what like I call the difference between like a fundamentally sound swing and a functional swing. People are very confused about that versus just some idiosyncratic pattern. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah, and like I said, and we'll kind of start with this. Like, what are some of kind of these baseline truths? And like I said, one of my concerns or questions around the whole world of instruction is the idea of conflicting truths. And you said that no doubt, social media has played a role in that. The 8-second attention span, the clickbaitification, if you will, of
Mm-hmm.
different topics. And I get there's pieces of that are necessary, no doubt. We want views too. We want people to come to our website to read our articles. We think there's a lot of really good information in there. And part of it's like, okay, how do we get the eyeballs in the right place? So now I have a captive audience and I can educate and inform them. And so I guess maybe let's kind of start with this is what are some baseline realities or things that you wish if you say, hey, could we get 100 instructors? And you've been a top level instructor for a long time. So I'm not gonna you're not new to that. You're certainly not new to the Minnesota golf scene. You've coached a lot of really good golfers. Other high level coaches have recognized you as a high level coach as well. So if you could get 100 instructors in the room and say, hey, guys, gals, people, can we all just agree to a couple things here?
Right.
Can we all just start with, and people have tried to do this, Harvey Penick, right? I
Right.
mean, like, what are some of those things that you're like, hey, this is kind of our template of learning, and we're going to agree to this canon. Here
Right.
we go. Let's start here. What would that look like for you?
Right. It's really interesting. That's a great question. I like how you prefaced it. I think you can start with pretty much all good instructors pretty much agree with ball flight laws and how the ball is curving in the air. Which if you're out there and you're listening and you're an amateur where you slice it or hook it and that you have like a big bias pattern, like go get it fixed. That's pretty easy. I always tell people like that's an easy fix. Go work on that. That's one golf lesson done. Guaranteed it.
Mm,
Okay. So I think we all agree on that, and most good instructors can fix a slice or hook very quickly. I think where it gets dicey is where we talk about like what are the critical components of a good golf swing that's just going to be more repeatable generally. Because I could fix your slice or your hook, but I want to also tighten your pattern to get your dispersion to be tighter.
mhm.
And that's where we get into the question of motor equivalence. Like, can you have your arms above your head like Jim Furyk and have your elbow trapped on the way down and turn your body with your elbow tucked like Jim Furyk and
Right,
absolutely flush it?
right.
Or do you need your arms in front of you like Nelly Corda to stripe it? And does it really matter? And should we change your swing if you have one or the other? And should we change it at age 16? Should we change it at 40? Or should we change it at 80 if you have a different swing?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
that's where I think we're a little bit in the dark because we have all these examples of good players that get it done slightly different ways. And
Right.
I've always been like aggressive in being like, I want to break this down and make it as good as possible. And I'm not afraid to put it back together and make it better. So I took that as my challenge. And now I do completely different training than how I did 10 years ago, where I'll
Okay.
take your swing and I'll say, all right, well, it's a little steep and cupped at the top. We're going to just change your grip and flatten your wrist. And you're going to come out in 3, 4 months and it's going to be way better. And it
Mhm.
works. Basically, different modes of training golf. You can do a mechanics breakdown, which would be one phase. You can do kind of a skills training, which would be getting you ready for the golf course and maybe doing more of like preparing and building skills so that you're kind of ready to play. And then you have
Mhm.
performance mode, which is be more like minimal swing thoughts and basically just hit the shots you need to on the course. And I'd say performance mode is more like that's really sports psychology. So I
Mhm.
think breaking down those phases and how we use them in training is something most amateurs don't think about at all. How many guys go to the
Yeah.
range and are like, "Oh, I'm doing mechanics and I'm going to try to actually make my swing look really good on video, but I'm also going to try to top 18 shots in a row because I'm trying to do mechanics."
Right. Right. So what? Yeah. So what does that difference look like? So and I think you're absolutely right. Most amateurs, one, I don't think they have any idea. Like, oh, I'm
Mhm.
gonna go. Like when I ask people, hey, what are you working on today? They're,
Yeah.
I'm working on my wedges, or I'm working on like, well, no, what are you working on? Like, is it
Yeah.
a like you said, is it a pattern? So, what are things in that mechanics bucket versus like a skill bucket? Because if
Yeah.
you're constantly pulling back and forth from one or the other, you're probably wasting a lot of time, probably wasting a lot of money on maybe overpriced range balls. If you're paying 15, $20 for a large bucket or
Yeah.
whatever, you're probably not getting any better. So give me some specific examples how that might break down for somebody like during a practice session.
Yeah, so it really depends on your time frame, and I would always advise like learn how to train in different mindsets within it, even at one session. I have a model, and I can share this if you want to, but basically it's like a periodization plan for training golfers. So this chart at the bottom, I think hopefully we're sharing here, but this would be
Yep.
mechanics, and this is where we're trying to deep dive on changing a lot of different things. We're trying to change how you use the ground, how you use your swing plane, maybe your release and impact, or maybe eliminating some early extension. And this is where I would have people comfortably think about 17 things and master them all, but not try to actually hit a golf ball. Get into the science here between what we call an open loop and a closed loop sort of feedback system. Okay. And this is all without a golf ball because I will come back to like, does it really matter um, if your swing's bad, should we actually be hitting golf balls? If we're trying to actually make our swing better? No, you got to learn how to like swing properly before you even put a golf ball in front of you. And then I go into foam ball phase where I start introducing more path face contact. This is where the rubber hits the road and you actually start to see some good shots. And then you go into real balls and you start to add some tempo. And so
Hmm.
learning how to basically pivot between hard mechanics in block practice
Right.
towards like really hard practice in terms of variability and pressure testing. That's really the true art of getting better at golf.
Well, and then, yeah, so we're going to dive into that because that's just it, right? Because people are still playing as they go, and I feel like part of that getting better too is confusion, or like, okay, well, I'm still playing in this league, or I'm going to
Mhm.
go out and play X
Mhm.
number of times. I'm not going to just shut down my entire world and do
Mhm.
only what Coach Luke told me to do on the
Mhm.
mechanics. I'm going to do this and not hit a golf ball
Yeah.
because I'm building
Yeah.
it kind of from the ground up. I still want to play as I
Yeah.
get better. So how do
Exactly.
I yeah, how do I do that? Like you said, while you're kind of changing that context of I can do mechanics all day long, but then now I'm
I wanna
putting
have fun.
for
Yeah.
$3 and
Uh-huh.
how
I
do
don't
I
wanna shoot a
fit
million. Yeah. So
yeah,
here's the magical analogy is this you're building your golf swing with awesome mechanics is what you should do because you wanna retire and be a 0 or a 2. Like, that should be your goal. But at the same time, like, let's call that building your dream house.
right.
Okay, use this analogy, and we're not gonna go use the dream house on the golf course because the roof's not on and it might rain. If you try to think about all that stuff, so let's have a plan where we can start doing mechanics at home, start to actually like learn how to move your body. It's gonna feel like martial arts, but when you go play golf on the golf course, play golf, not golf swing.
Right.
And at a certain point, your new golf swing is going to get better and better and better, and you're gonna go to the range and start flushing shots like you've never flushed it before. That's the time to maybe start using it on the golf course a little bit more.
Right. So there has to be kind of that breakdown part. And
Yeah.
so if I want to and this applies to anybody, and say, okay, I want to optimize this process. I want to get from where I'm at, to where I want to go, obviously as efficiently as possible. What are a couple things, like you said, that I should keep in mind? Like being able to
Yeah.
toggle back and forth between okay, mechanics, and then hey, when I go play, and
Yeah.
that work that I'm doing on the mechanics, etc. It's almost like that's going to naturally overtake what
It,
I've been doing, right? As I'm kind of
yeah.
reprogramming myself to a degree,
Yeah.
it's like all of a sudden, oh, now my body just did that. And now it's like,
Mhm.
ooh,
Mhm.
okay, that was different. That little piece seeped into, again, you would know all the words for this, right? But basically, it
Mhm.
went from something I was working and practicing doing to on the range, and then maybe I did it during competition. Okay,
Mhm.
what
Yeah.
else are kind of these firm parameters to getting better. I like that idea of hey, go play and then
Yeah.
let your learning kind of overtake
Yeah.
itself, as you
Yeah.
relearn. What else do I need to know to do this like optimally, right? Because I
Yeah.
I want to
You
do that and then be able to come back to you every so often for an update, a tweak here and there. But with,
Right.
kind of this primary learning process, what is that?
Right. Well, so first, kind of to reiterate mechanics. Mechanics are where we're changing all the I would call it the ground force and the speed you're trying to create and the good biomechanics. We're trying to create good biomechanics in the mechanics phase.
Hmm.
But if you get off with a bias during the mechanics phase and you're not watching that feedback closely, you can find yourself in a world of hurt. And so biases really result from path, face, or contact would be the primary three that you have to watch. So
Hmm.
let's say you go develop a new move or you're starting to grab the ground and rotate. That's really cool. That's awesome. But what will happen is the face might get open.
Hmm.
So your swing might look better on video, your shaft leans better. Now you hit it way more right, you might hit a few OB. So you need to learn how to match up components as you do this. So
Sure.
watching feedback is super key.
What do you think are some of the biggest myths or misapplications that are out there in the instructional world today?
Yeah.
Because I feel like I hear, like I said, sometimes you hear conflicting truths, or, again, this is my personal bias. I always get very leery when somebody has a system that they
Yeah.
teach. That's just me personally, because I go in my head, what if that system doesn't work for me? Or what if I have certain physical limitations that don't allow me to access
Right.
what that system is
Right.
predicated on people, being able to do, And so I go,
Right.
okay, what are these things out there? Like if you hear this stuff, you go, oh my gosh, this is the most cringeworthy thing. Stop it. Be quiet. Don't listen to it. What are those myths that are out there right now?
Well, I think static testing of body parts is one thing that can be very dicey because dynamic patterns are way more important. So you might be built like John Daly and you might look like you're not flexible, but that guy is flexible. So how you move your body matters way more than how you look. And then I also think like diving into the TPI, I think TPI is great, but some people overvalue some of the things that might come out of it. Like let's say I fail the overhead deep squat where I can't go down and even touch my toes and I come out of posture as a result of that. Well, you could also just bend your lead leg and you could stay down in posture with a physical flaw. So we have to work around those things. You should not necessarily early extend because you can't touch your toes. Like we can teach around that. Like if I give you an 18-inch club, Chris, and you're an early extender, and I tell you to stay down and you're using your 4-year-old's club,
Right.
do you think you'll early extend? I will bet you $1 million you probably will not early extend. So it's
Right.
not your
Right.
physical limitations that are causing
Right.
that. It's the club's going to jam the ground. That's why you early extend.
Hmm.
One of the hardest ones to kind of change is like a trail arm movement. So if somebody doesn't know how to externally rotate their trail arm and shallow club, and you're one
Yeah.
of those guys where it's like not a supernatural
Yeah.
move, right?
Yeah.
If you
Right.
don't naturally drop your elbow down, we're going to have to find another way to shallow the club, or we're going to have to find another way to deal with that, which could
Hmm.
be cast it to get it really wide,
Yep.
and that's going to slow down your body rotation. Or we're going to have to find a way to really, really kind of stay really wide with our angles
Yeah.
as we start down. That would be another way. So there's going to be compensations that need to come into that. But that to me is some of the cringeworthy stuff when people are doing static testing and expect it to really like impact your golf swing. If
Yeah.
that
Well,
makes
that's why.
sense.
Yeah. No, for sure. And that was always one of things. Like I never understood like still frame images during instruction.
Hmm.
Like even if you saw something in print, like a sequence, da 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 da, that's like okay, that's awesome,
Yeah.
but I don't understand, like, for me, and again, my background growing up, I played baseball, basketball, football, that kind of stuff. I didn't really start playing golf until after college, and so my whole motor learning pattern, et cetera, is based on a lot of side-on sports, throwing a
Sure.
football,
Yeah.
right? Hitting a baseball. Um, so, your brain, you're probably already going, okay, I have an idea of what those primordial patterns,
Yeah.
might kind of be based on somebody who played those type of sports. And you might say, okay, what kind of hitter were you, or what, whatever
Hmm.
it was, you might be able to go, okay, I have an idea how this person may have learned how to use his or her body to affect a certain outcome.
Right.
So like I see a static image of Adam Scott and I go,
Yeah.
great, that
Yeah.
looks great, Adam. what
Yeah.
what what do I do with that? Like,
I know.
okay,
Well,
hang it on the wall.
one
put in
image
the
on its
loop.
own is really not enough. You know, like you could look like you got the thing slotted. How many amateurs are chasing a shallow downswing where they want it to look like this, right?
Right,
Shallow is all the rage, but then they're 18 degrees inside out. You don't even see the impact, and
right.
you know it all has to match up, which is kind of cliche, but it's super true. Like it has to work. And so then I go back to what are the three things you got to really master is path, face, contact, and a
Mhm,
little bit of low point and attack angle will be the fourth if you want to have a fourth. So
mhm.
we do all the mechanical work, but we have to tie it together with good feedback understanding to get the golf ball back going where it needs to go.
Yeah, and I think that's the big catch 22 to me of the golf instruction stuff. You have these top 100 lists and you have these things which are great, and to me they aren't, because I think they can help some people and maybe they don't help others because, like you're saying, it's a composite sum of all these different parts, right? Where it's like, well, what matters? Well, it all
Hmm.
matters. You know, somebody
Hmm.
asked me, hey, during club fitting, when you guys are doing club testing, hey, is the shaft important? Maybe.
Right.
It is.
Yeah.
It may be really important. It may be less important, but that entire club is a component system. And head weight, loft, lie, length, shaft weight, EI profile of the shaft, da 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 da. All these things matter. It's not just,
Hmm.
hey, try this shaft. A lot of people are playing it. It's really good. Like you're saying
Well,
with golf
yeah,
instruction, this all matters and it's dynamic. And
it's
so,
dynamic. And
and
that's what
so,
makes it hard to study. And so really my next like 5, 10 years, like I'm gonna just do studies and I want to go get to the bottom of this. Like, you know, simple stuff like should we actually be working on our putting stroke? Should we just do drills that improve our speed and our ability to read putts? You know what I mean? Like there's some people that think your putting stroke matters and I just don't think it matters that much as long as it's relatively repeatable. You know, so I'm kind of I already have a bias there, and I'm ready to go find out. I'm gonna go find it. I'd love you guys to be involved if you have some interest in it. Like, let's go find out the good questions to answer. Like,
yeah.
how should we actually like approach hitting 7 iron? Should we have one shot shape, or should we be able to curve it both ways? Like, I think it's good to be able to curve it. Some people don't think it's important. But I
Hmm.
teach people from a long term perspective that I know if they can curve it, they can also fix it better.
Right.
You know.
Right. Right. Like I think that's a great one. And yeah, like just take that one example. And there's probably 100 questions out there like this, and people that are watching this
Mhm,
probably have those questions. And please post them, ask them in there. But should I play one shot shape?
mhm.
Should I work the ball? Right?
Yeah, and
And
should I be is 0 okay? I mean, if you go ask a top instructor, like, "Can I just try to hit the ball straight?" Like, I love it, but I'm a minority. A lot of golf pros think, "Eh, you should know which way it's tipping."
hmm.
I don't that would fail a formal logic class, I can promise you that. 0 is just as repeatable as positive 1, you know what I mean?
Right. 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 What's repeatable? Like, why does zero actually matter as opposed to plus one or minus one?
Yeah, it's anybody who doesn't get that, like, they literally would fail a formal logic class if they think you have to curve it one way or the other. There's no reason for it. That's only in the head. Now there could be a groupthink thing that makes it seem like that's better, but, you know,
Mhm.
and maybe there's some psychology to know which way it's curving possibly, but from a physics standpoint, it makes no difference, right?
Does the stroke actually matter? Or what matters most? Repeatability versus the aesthetic versus, being zeroed out, being,
Right,
whatever those are. And you go, wow, man, some of the best putters of all time were 2 degrees out to in. They basically
right,
cut the ball on
right,
every putt, but
right.
they were 2 degrees out to in
Yeah.
every single time.
Yes. And then we get into correlation causation. So, like a
Right.
big correlation thing is you see backswings on the PJ Tour are pretty much on plane. Is
Hmm.
that because that's important? Or is that because it's so darn easy and we have video? Because 60 years ago, they were not on plane.
Mm-mm.
You know, Bobby Jones got her done and it looks pretty sweet coming down, but
Uh-huh.
it was wrapped inside like you wouldn't believe. But,
Uh-huh.
you know, he didn't care. He just wanted to win your money. You know what I mean?
One of the straightest hitters of all time, right?
Yeah.
Calvin Peete. Look at Calvin Pete's
Exactly.
driver swing.
Exactly.
I would
And I
kill for that result, but
totally.
but
And
you're not.
there's a clack, like, does that left lead arm need to be straight? For sure, we almost all agree now. Like, I actually think bending your lead arm is probably optimal. I don't think straight is optimal.
Uh-huh.
I think there should be a little bend in there. About 70% of tour pros have a little bend, and it actually softens your release when you have some bend in your lead arm. When you have that thing ramrod straight, you'll see more face rotation.
Talk me through here, kind of what you're seeing, what you like, what you despise, and where you would start with somebody like me.
So, brutally honest, probably pretty quick at you,
Yep.
but you know,
Yep,
like
I love that.
your swing is like so common for average player. And you said you played a little baseball. Like, I see that in there.
Mhm.
I see how that trail elbow wants to stay a little high in the transition.
Yep.
And the big question is, like, how much time do you have and how much do you want to fix it? Like, this is where, like, my classic lesson would be at. I would literally have you do freezers and teach you how to do the downswing, and we probably wouldn't hit balls the first lesson, but within a
Mhm.
week you could make it look awesome on video.
Learning is inherently self-paced,
It
right? Because it
is.
depends so
Yeah.
much on the learner
Mhm.
and how you can be the best teacher in the world, right? But if I can't receive and do with that information what you need me to, then I'm holding up that process, right? So
Yep.
it has an awful lot to do with me and how quickly I can absorb and then
Yes.
recreate. And then, like I said, do you want to put in the time? Do you want to do the practice? Do you want to try to get better at golf
Right.
without hitting a golf ball for, going Mr. Miyagi on me, like wax
Yep.
on, wax off,
Yeah.
and am I willing to do those things? That yeah,
Right.
that's all part of it. But um
And this is the kicker is, like, I would not be teaching this way if I hadn't started teaching online, because what people needed when I started teaching them online was rigorous structure. They
uh-huh.
needed to know it needs to look like this, and we are not moving on until it looks like this.
Uh-huh.
And so they would go do the work in the backyard or foam balls
Mhm.
exactly how I wanted to, and I was just blown away at how effective it was. It almost
Yeah.
felt like my in-person lessons were less effective because we were chasing golf
Yeah.
balls around trying to hit good shots.
Yeah.
And
And
so if
well,
you've
that was
never
gonna
done
be my
that,
follow-up.
yeah,
That was gonna be
yeah,
my question is like, okay, so I'm in Colorado, you're in Minnesota. How effective can that be from a teaching learning standpoint? And part of what I hear you saying is in some senses it might be more effective because we're going to remove, at least initially, something that can keep people from playing well, which is trying to hit a golf ball and make it look
yeah,
really good.
yeah.
I'm not going to be able to do that. Right.
Right,
So
right. Yeah, so you wanna learn how to make the swing look awesome, and you're trying to hit the ball as poorly as possible early on. I can't emphasize that enough. Hit it really, really bad, because if you're trying to hit it good, we're not learning fast, okay?
yeah.
And then what you wanna do is say, "Don't do the same bad. Don't keep slicing it. Don't keep shanking it. Don't keep topping it." Then you start learning the tools to fix those bad shots while the mechanics continue to look awesome. So that's kind of how I would do it, so different than actually tracing golf balls. I would put in a couple of hours of learning the move, and then we start chasing golf balls once we have it looking pretty sweet.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fascinating. Might be something for people to follow along to as well. Because I think, like I said, I think instruction is such a I kind of call it the dark arts of the golf industry because with the advent, whether COVID, I think accelerated this, no doubt. But you don't need any qualifications to charge somebody for a golf lesson. You know,
No,
you don't need, which would be like me going into somebody's house and paying, having them pay me to cook a meal for them, right? Like there's zero reason, but you have everybody from, take somebody like a Butch Harmon who is not a PGA professional, right? To
right,
there are some PGA professionals, I'm sure, very, very good instructors. There are people
right.
in between. There are people that are on lists that are kind of the instruction of what's happening now and it sounds good and sells a lot of magazines, but maybe doesn't actually help golfers get better, right? And then there's infighting, well, this theory, the stack and tilt guys don't really like these guys, and these
Mhm.
guys don't really like those guys because they're having these kind of academic disagreements on things. Meanwhile, there are a lot of other instructors like, I don't care. I'm just
Mhm.
trying to help golfers get better. And I think I have a way that does
Mhm.
that without necessarily needing to adhere to any specific, you know,
Yeah.
uh, really sellable asset, right? Really, ooh,
Right.
that looks good on a t-shirt or on a name, or on a billboard or something.
Yeah, we're struggling to know how to actually teach teachers. The PGA, I think they mean well, but PGA hasn't really developed the script to teach teachers, and so a lot of them are kind of taught through essentially the oldest process in the book, which is if you go watch a couple good teachers do it, and you may watch for a couple days, and then you're ready to go teach. You could probably do it by Saturday if you want to. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So yeah, we're
Yeah,
struggling at this point to understand that, and I think hopefully we're coming out of it as more motor learning gets into it and
yeah,
start to understand some of the physics and concepts there. But
yep,
it's a struggle. I think you're right.
yeah. It's there. Well, last little quick, we're gonna do a little plug for Ripstick real quick because I know you've been involved with Ripstick for quite some time actually. And this is again in that speed training space. So just relatively quickly, what is Ripstick? Why do all golfers need more speed? And what are we going to do if they roll back the ball and tell you, hey, everybody's fast enough, you amateurs, you hit it too far anyway? What are we going to do then? But let's start with what is Ripstick?
Yeah, it means reach your potential. So we're at the heart. Like I just want to help golfers play better. Part of the way you play better is you learn to hit it farther. But I think what differentiates us a little bit is the tool is awesome. It makes a swishing sound, which is really helpful for learning how to lag it and kind of unload it. It's like the external cue you need to get shaft lane and a better release is in the swishing sound it makes. So that's really cool. It's got the scientific principles you need are 10% underweight, 10% overweight. And if you want, you can go 20% or 20%. Like there's a lot of variability in it. You don't need a million options. You need four or five different options. And we got the counterweight cap, which is kind of a nice addition as well. So, and you can change it all and literally changes a weight literally in about 2 seconds. So really easy to use. The hardware is great. And then I think what's I think interesting or different about us is like our protocols are designed with motor learning and biomechanics together, meaning like I don't just want to get you hitting it faster. I want you to hit it straighter too. So we use a
Mhm.
lot of freezers and we use a lot of essentially like how you should be learning to free to get your downswing in order, which is
Mhm.
learning how to use the ground. We're plugging power leaks while we're doing speed. Because if we don't plug these power leaks right away, first of all, you may actually learn to swing more inefficiently. Like it's
Right.
not truth that just swinging faster makes you better all the time. I can tell you so many times that is not true. And the industry is saying that, oh, just go swing
Sure.
faster, it'll make you better.
Right. But you're
So all
faster.
you're faster. Yeah, no, you lose more golf balls, but I think
Right.
it's all about efficiency with training and plugging power leaks. And so that's where our protocols are really different because again, we're trying to make your swing better and
Right.
also faster.
Right.
And if
Right.
you want to ask the question like what holds up under the gun, well, how do we make swing changes that are really effective?
Sure.
We need to make them fast and efficient together so that that's how your body wants to pull the pattern.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it only matters if it translates to the final arena, right? Where whether
exactly.
that's and for some golfers, it might be their club championship. That might be their Super Bowl. It might be a Wednesday night league that they want.
Mhm.
It might be, like I said, competitive amateur events. You work with a lot of players where, professional golf is something that they're pursuing and looking forward to trying to achieve or seeing, hey, can I get a scholarship and play in college and see where it goes from there, right? Everybody has kind of a different arena they want to play in, but at the end of the day, that's where it has to pay off. Otherwise,
Right.
why are we doing steps
Yeah.
1 through 99 if it doesn't
Right.
matter when I get to step 100, right? Then
Right.
it's just why did
And
I spend all the time, energy, and effort to get there, right?
if you want to be good at golf, like speed train and work on your mechanics a little bit, and
Mhm.
then have a pretty good idea of what you're trying to do with short game and putting. Like those are the key things.
I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of questions that come out of this. I've generated a list of like another 25 questions that I have, which we're not going to get into today because people, attention spans, 8 seconds on TikTok is about, we know where we've gotten to. But I'm excited to continue this conversation with you. You've piqued my interest on a lot of topics on, again, me specifically. I know my swing could get a whole lot better. I'm interested to see what that could kind of look like, and maybe kind of go down that journey, and we'll just kind of take it from there. But I appreciate your time. If you guys have questions, again, we'll post all the links to Rypstick, your sites, all those things below, so people can reach out should they have questions and those things. But until next time, we out.